CM 365, all about Carnatic music. It is quite common to see that singers, especially in the social media now, they resort to singing already popular and well-known songs, shlokas, etc. Now, a thought came to my mind as to why they do not resort to singing very rare pieces or some very new pieces, and why do they keep on singing the already heard popular pieces again and again. What kind of a difference actually it makes in terms of the listenership for these kind of music actually. Earlier I had mentioned to you about the same thing from the point of the Rasikas, where we saw that they love listening to something basically which is simple and repetitive as against some more complex patterns. So that is why I said also from the Rasika's point of view, we see that the Namavalis, Shlokas, or the simple popular devotional songs catch on very well with a larger mass of people than the truly classical and kind of elaborate kind of pieces which are there in our music system itself. And let us look at the same thing now from the singer's point of view. And here I thought I'll share a few objectives about this concept here. Popular songs catch immediate attention. Now, for example, here I could take the composition Rangapura Vihara, which was immortalized, I would say, by Srimati M.S. Subbulakshmi. Now, after her, so many musicians have tried to sing this Rangapura Vihara. And we see that there are also many listeners for each of them. Now, the point here is that of the familiarity of the composition, which creates an immediate connect for the Rasika, and that's why the singer is also singing that so that they are able to actually bring about that connect. The second, of course, here my thoughts are also on the fact that whether when the listener is listening to this Rangapura Vihara by a new singer, he is actually listening to the interpretation of this new singer, or whether he is dwelling on the thoughts of the composition as sung by M.S. Subbulakshmi. So these are all some things which are very relative as to how even we listen to a composition. Now, as I said earlier also, these kinds of Namavali, Shlokas, etc. have simple tune and thus they have a larger reach. And Slokas, light songs, reach beyond to a larger listener. And because of this fact, what is happening is that the singer is able to expand his listenership. That is very important because every musician also aspires to increase his base of listeners, and that's where I would see that these kind of songs do come in handy. And this we can very well again explain the point here, where you probably the same singer you see in YouTube has sung a very classy, very kind of traditional piece which is very unheard, and the same singer singing some very popular composition, and you would see obviously here the difference in the number of viewership. Obviously the popular song gains a lot of listeners, whereas when he sings a very classy unheard piece, there will only be limited number of people listening to it. Now, here again, of course, further we could quote the examples of how even our classical singers have resorted to singing slokas like the Lalita Sahasranamam or the Saundarya Lahari, Skanda Shashti Kavacham, etc. That way to have a larger reach towards their listeners. And the devotional element in music appeals to a larger spectrum of people. Here, and only a limited group can actually understand and appreciate the artistic elements. So the devotional element actually draws us to these kind of compositions where immediately you are spiritually inclined towards these compositions and they attract you. Whereas when it's a complicated piece of art music, it requires more understanding and more intent listening, I would say, in terms of understanding the moments, the rhythm, the complexity of the lyrics and other things. And that's why we say that it has got a limited appeal. And another aspect of these light devotional pieces is the fact that you're able to reproduce what you have listened, and that also makes for a larger base of viewership or listenership, I would say, where when you're able to replicate, you're able to reproduce what you have listened. And in this context, we also see that in the film music arena also, songs which have got very, very simple tunes have had a much wider reach than songs which were created in a very complicated manner. Now, these devotional songs also play a very important role at the spiritual ritual daily, where we play the shlokas daily, as a ritual in the morning, and we feel that this lends a good atmosphere to our whole day, or to give mental solace to the ailing. And that way, we see that these kind of devotional music, these kind of namavalis, slokas, etc., seem to have an upper edge in terms of the listenership. And that is why we also see that many musicians resort to singing popular pieces so that they are able to increase their listeners beyond their classical circle to a wider mass. CM 365, all about Carnatic music.